Every issue we focus on a different character, give you a little bit more, and as you learn more about the characters on the team, you'll learn more about what happened to the country and why it's divided into these crazy different zones, each one like sci-fi or western, or anyway, it's a lot of fun.
A group of scientists, soldiers, and politicians traveled to the United States of America, the first invited guest 30 years after America suddenly closed its borders, becoming a hermit kingdom. What caused a superpower to close its doors? Why is America reaching out after all these years? Who are the brave souls chosen for the journey? These are just a few of the questions writers Scott Snyder and Charles Soule pose in this week's Undiscovered Country #1. Undiscovered Country is a very important series for Image Comics. Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead is no more. Brian K. Vaughan's Saga is still on hiatus, leaving Spawn as the only Image series regularly shipping over 25,000 comics an issue. I thought Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hahn's Die would be their next breakout hit, but Gillen's recent penchant for presenting his characters as terrible people all but killed Die's momentum, leaving Undiscovered Country as Image's next breakout candidate. Scott Snyder and Charles Soule certainly have the pedigree. Snyder's Batman run was the last ongoing comic series regularly shipping over 200,000 issues of release. Soule's work on Darth Vader and Daredevil were inspired. They're teaming with a group of amazing artists led by GIUSEPPE CAMUNCOLI. The veteran Spider-Man and Star Wars illustrator appears rejuvenated, laying some of his best pencil and inks in years. And his recent work on Soule's Darth Vader series is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. There are a lot of concerns due to the premise Undiscovered Country is a response to President Trump's border policies. I personally didn't get those vibes from the solicitation information, and none of the creators have hinted at that while promoting the series. I can say now with 100% certainty, Undiscovered Country #1 doesn't deliver any commentary on modern day politics. If you read the comic specifically looking for political commentary, I'm sure you could probably convince yourself it's in the book, but you would have to do some serious mental gymnastics getting there. The only real reference to anything political is a group calling themselves the Silent Minority, and that's only on one page. In fact, by the time the issue is over, it's never made clear why the USA shut itself off to the outside world. What readers do get is a fantastic introduction to a stark future. I describe the story as Mad Max meets Outbreak with a little bit of Lost thrown in. I had high expectation for this series based on the creative team and premise. Scott Snyder, Charles Soule, GIUSEPPE CAMUNCOLI, and company deliver one of the best indie comic debuts of 2019. I highly recommend this comic book. If you're into science fiction stories with a horror element, this dystopian future comic is written for you. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the channel content, please give us a sub and ring the bell for notifications. Thinking Critical delivers the best reviews, comic industry news, and panels on YouTube. If you agree, spread the word any way you can. We're small fish in a big pond here, and any help you can give getting the word out is greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into today's comic book review. Artist GIUSEPPE CAMUNCOLI is in top form on Undiscovered Country. There's a bit of action, and it looks like there's going to be plenty in the future, but issue 1 is very much a character-driven story, making Camo's work designing each character's look and body language even more important than usual. His cast is very expressive for the entirety of the comic, which is 37 pages despite the normal $4 cover price. Camo takes advantage of his real estate in the book, mixing up his paneling and continuously changing angles, especially when tensions ratchet up. Inker Daniele Orlandini does a great job with Camo's pencil work. The pair have plenty of experience together, and it shows in the quality of the visuals on page. The line art is very thin and precise, fitting Snyder and Soule's vision to a T. I imagine there will be a bit of heartburn over Dr. Charlotte Graves' hair, specifically the blue streak. I'll be the first to admit that female scientists with colored hair is basically a comic meme at this point. But if we dismissed every female character with blue streaks out of hand, we would never enjoy the brilliance that is WWE's Asuka. The character isn't completely competent at everything or presented as perfect. She is the main protagonist of the story, so she's no dumpster fire either. She appears to be a nuanced character. But we'll get to that in a minute. You guys got me sidetracked. Back to the art. When the team reached the borders of America, Camo and Orlandini lay in some amazing detail work, but it's color artist Matt Wilson who adds layers of dread and character to the new world. Everything is covered in mist. All the metals are aged. You can see right away this isn't the America we know or these characters remember. The entire team are heading into the dangerous unknown. The synergy from Giuseppe Camuncoli, Daniele Orlandini, and Matt Wilson is evident in the quality of the visuals. The settings are impeccably detailed, character expressions lively, and visual tone ominous. Snyder and Soule's vision is executed to near perfection. I rate the art 4.5 out of 5. The story starts with the team selected to lead the first expedition into America since they shut themselves off to the outside world. It's very reminiscent of the scene with all the scientists arguing on the way to Jurassic Park. We get a bit of info regarding the electromagnetic wall protecting the borders of the USA. None of the team are sure what to expect, but despite being allowed to enter US airspace, they quickly learn not everyone in America is welcoming the diplomatic envoy. They're quickly shot down in what may be hostile territory. I do want to point out, New Republic Pictures recently won a bidding war for the rights to the series. Scott Snyder and Charles Soule are co-writing the screenplay for the would-be film franchise. The story does feel like it will adapt to the big screen well. Snyder previously stated that each issue will concentrate on a specific character, and this is where the Lost vibe comes in. This week's featured character is Dr. Charlotte Graves, and she's fleshed out in flashbacks, much like the hit TV show Lost. Before I get into her character intro, I gotta point out the dude in the mask. That's Colonel Bukowski, the pilot of the chopper, who also has a huge beard. He would never, ever get a seal with that gas mask and his enormous beard. I don't imagine many of the creators have ever been in a war zone with mop gear, but beards that big are a no-no, especially if you know there are actual chemical or biological threats. Anywho, Colonel Bukowski travels to find Charlotte Graves in Athens tending to victims of the mysterious sky virus, which we'll soon learn is a grave threat to the entire world. He tells her he needs her to come with him to learn how to stop the virus and mentions it's related to a message from America. The message received is very menacing. Just because America closed its doors doesn't mean we stop watching all of you. The wars, your two new empires, Alliance Euro-Afrique, and the Pan-Asiatic Prosperity Zone. The messenger mentions the plague they're dealing with. He says the sky virus is too deadly. Those outside America have 6 months left before the world dies. Turns out, America has a cure and is opening its borders for a negotiation. He says they're very happy in America, but may consider reopening borders if the negotiations are successful. For the most part, this story is executed very well, but when the team meet for the first time, there's a bit too much tell and not enough show. This is far too much dialogue for one splash page. I don't care how important the exposition is, this is Bendis-like stuff here. Thankfully, these are the only pages this wordy, and is a bit of an aberration. We learn the messenger is Dr. Sam Elgin. They ask Dr. Graves and her brother Major Graves if they recognize the man from before they were evacuated from America. While Charlotte may be the protagonist and gets a lion's share of development in this comic, she's not the most interesting character. That's her brother. She asks why he's there. Both the Zone and Alliance want him dead. That's interesting. Turns out Major Graves has come closer to infiltrating America than any man living outside its borders. All the other characters get a tiny bit of shine here. There are representatives from both the Alliance Euro-Afrique and the Pan-Asiatic Prosperity Zone. There's also an American history and culture expert, and finally a reporter to document the team's trip. There are plenty of mysteries presented in this very wordy encounter. Why were Dr. and Major Graves evacuated from America? Are their parents still alive? Who is Sam Elgin? Why is America offering these negotiations after 30 years? They're in a position of power with the sky virus pandemic. What are they looking to gain? And finally, we need to learn Major Graves' backstory regarding America. I imagine he tried to sneak in and find his parents, but how did he escape? This feels like Snyder and Soule are laying the groundwork for a fantastic double cross. I don't want to get into too much detail when the team arrives in America, but it's not quite as nice as Dr. Elgin makes it out to be. They definitely have their own problems. A lot has changed in 30 years. We see all kind of vehicles being powered by sea creatures on open land, which is curious to say the least. This scene is very reminiscent of the recent Mortal Engines film. Thankfully, this comic is far better than that movie. But I gotta know how all this is possible. And shout out to my old sailor buddy Shazam, the man who first introduced me to the idea of the land carrier. Needless to say, the entire expedition is in serious danger, and none of them even know where they are. Thankfully, they're not completely alone. A mysterious figure arrives and offers the envoy help escaping the situation. He identifies himself as American, and Snyder and Soule start cluing us in on a bit of what's going on here. The mysterious patriot introduces the team to the silent minority. They also learn America has been evolving since it closed its borders. It's compartmented into several territories, with some seemingly more hostile than others. If you've read East of West, it kind of has that vibe, but different. There's also a couple of pages of history regarding the sealing of America, as it's referred to in the story, and the history behind the development of the series, which has been years in the making. Scott Snyder and Charles Soule's debut as a writing team is very successful. They do a great job introducing the characters and settings. Dr. Graves gets a good amount of development, and her brother's backstory is very intriguing. Some parts get a bit too wordy with exposition, but that's to be expected in a comic debuting an entire new world. I rate the characterization 4 out of 5. Despite holding an extra 10 pages of story, the comic is paced near perfectly. They never linger too long in one place, and several elements are introduced that move the story along. I rate the plot 4.5 out of 5. Before I wrap this review up, I wanted to let you know if you would like to help support all the comic book and pop culture content on Thinking Critical, we have a Ko-fi page now. Contributors receive bonus content and early access to some channel content. If you have any questions about supporting the channel or bonus content, feel free to DM me on Twitter or send me an email at wesdiggscomics@gmail.com. I was personally sold on the premise behind Undiscovered Country when this series was announced. The story execution from Scott Snyder and Charles Soule is even more exciting than I imagined. Snyder's at his best with science fiction and horror. He's absolutely in his element with this series. Soule seemingly flourishes with any genre. There are plenty of twists and turns along the way. Using flashbacks for character development suits the comic very well. The art from GIUSEPPE CAMUNCOLI, Daniele Orlandini, and Matt Wilson is inspired. The team created an amazing atmosphere for the characters and story. I rate Undiscovered Country number 1, 4.5 out of 5 overall. I highly recommend this comic. Readers who enjoy dystopian future settings need to jump on this series. Concerns Undiscovered Country is social commentary about current day politics seem to be greatly exaggerated. That's not how the series was promoted by Image Comics or the creators. Will Undiscovered Country devolve into anti-Trump allegory over time? I honestly don't know, but based on the solicitation information available and the words of the creators, it's not what I'm expecting. Image Comics needs a new hit title to help replace sales loss from the end of The Walking Dead. I'll say it now. I think Image Comics, Scott Snyder, Charles Soule, and GIUSEPPE CAMUNCOLI have a bona fide hit on their hands. And by all accounts, Undiscovered Country is planned to run for at least 3 years. If you're looking for a new high-quality, long-term ongoing title to replace The Walking Dead or East of West, Undiscovered Country might just be the series you're looking for. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.